Hi, and welcome to the Home Video Emporium. I'm your host, my name is Brendan, and with this series what I hope to accomplish is to catalog my entire collection of home video titles and determine which of these movies still belongs amongst my elite and esteemed collection and needs to be preserved for many years still to come, and which of these movies unfortunately may need to be purged so we can free up a little shelf space here, as I have unfortunately run out of room on my video shelves, and I'm still looking to add titles to the collection still. The goal for this series is to get rid of about 30 to 50 movies by the end, and if nothing else, this is a great time and excuse to watch some movies I may not have seen in a while, and hopefully enjoy them all with you. I would first like to start off with a correction. If any of you saw a short video I made where I was promoting the Coen Brothers series, I misspoke and I said there would be 10 videos in the series, where in actuality we're only going to do 9. I only own 9 Coen Brothers on home video here, and that's all it's going to be. I either misspoke or miscounted, so I apologize for my either faulty math or faulty speaking. But that being said, today's episode is 2007's No Country for Old Men by Joel and Ethan Coen, adapted from the novel by Cormac McCarthy. Film stars Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Kelly MacDonald, Tommy Lee Jones, and Woody Harrelson. In the series, this is the very first Coen Brothers movie that I actually saw in the theaters that I'm going to actually talk about, that I bought it on home video. A lot of them, for whatever reason, that I wind up seeing in the theaters, I don't wind up purchasing. I had seen The Lady Killers, and after this, Burn After Reading, Inside Llewyn Davis, which is actually quite good. So I see Coen Brothers movies in the theater, but I actually rarely, for whatever reason, wind up purchasing them and wanting to add them to the collection. So for now, No Country is the first one. The DVD here, I got at Target. I believe it was a Target exclusive. It's a 3-disc set that comes here. So No Country for Old Men. Actually, around the time that I was getting around to watching the movie, that I heard about it, I was also, somewhere I heard a recommendation about Cormac McCarthy and that I should read Blood Meridian, his novel from the 80s. And so I can't remember, my timeline is unfortunately not the greatest. I can't remember if it was the exact time or if it was a little bit after, a little bit before, but I was doing, I did read Blood Meridian around the same time as I saw No Country for Old Men. Very difficult book to read. If you've never read that, that is a very challenging book, but a very rewarding one nonetheless. Excuse me. And then after reading Blood Meridian, I had gone back and read some other self-serve parts about that, because it's a tough one. You got Cormac's lack of punctuation marks and things like that. You have to kind of reread some things. So when I was kind of done with that, I did read No Country after seeing the movie. And No Country is a very easy, much easier book to read. If you're starting with McCarthy, I would recommend that one. The Road's pretty easy as well. But from what I understand, Cormac McCarthy intended No Country to actually be a screenplay, which is why it kind of reads like one at times. It's a little bit more linear. It's a lot more straightforward. And apparently Scott Rudin, the producer, gave it to Joel and Ethan Coen. He told them he thought they would be able to turn into a very great movie, and he was right. The Coens read it, they liked it, they adapted it. I remember hearing at the Creative Screenwriting podcast where Joel and Ethan were guests, and basically they just talked about their adapting process, and Joel said that one of them just held the book open, the other one just typed it in. And they really didn't change it a lot. There are a few changes, some things they kind of omitted from the novel, mainly dealing with Woody Harrelson's character, a lot more of his kind of psychology, and there's something about him seeing the date that he knows is going to be the day that he dies. So that was taken out. But for the most part, they did do a very faithful adaptation. Excuse me. Hopefully when we get a little cooler weather, it'll be a little easier for me to talk and to breathe. Doing all these without the AC. But yeah, this is a tremendous thriller. It's, I think, one of the best thrillers of the last, however long, 25, 30 years. Very tense, incredible cinematography, great performances all in all. And this is As far as the Coens in their career, I neglected to mention this, I believe in the Man Who Wasn't There, but they are shooting now widescreen. It's a much, it's much more of the anamorphic aspect ratio, where the previous ones were a little more of the old Academy ratio. In Roger Deakins, he doesn't use the anamorphic lenses. He uses the more traditional lenses and just crops. He just doesn't like the look of the anamorphic. So we are shooting now in true widescreen. We're getting all these great landscapes, a lot of just natural lighting, a lot of sunsets, a lot of magic hour. Sometimes we're kind of faking the dawn, but it's an incredible looking movie. Very tense if you haven't seen it. And wow. And it is one. When I first purchased it, 2008 maybe it came out on DVD. I did watch it a lot. I haven't watched it a ton in the last 10 to 15 years, but I watch it every 2-3 years, and it still holds up. It's still great. And one of the things that I did notice, and I don't know if this is a homage in some way to Raising Arizona, or unless it is from the book. I didn't have time to reread the book. I'm not sure if it is from there or not, but there is a scene where Anton Chigurh is driving over a bridge, and he shoots a bird, and that's how they introduce Randall Tex Cobb's Leonard Smalls character in Raising Arizona. I don't know if the Coens are kind of paying homage to themselves, and they're saying, that's where, but if not, it's still a great scene, and it makes sense for his kind of nihilistic character. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Llewellyn Moss, played by Josh Brolin, he goes back to give one of the wounded victims who has the heroin in the back of his car, to give him some water that he desperately needs. And that's when some of the other drug dealers, they come up and they try to chase him down. And the whole scene is incredible. I read in the American Cinematographer magazine, came out at the time, that Roger Deakins, he was using big stadium lights for like a football stadium to light the whole hillside, to make it look like the dawn was coming out before it does. And they're cutting back and forth as as Brolin jumps to the river. The sunlight is finally coming out. It's just such a great scene. And there's so many. There's when Javier Bardem's Chigurh character, he's looking for the money in the air conditioning, and it's just this crazy lighting where it's just flickers of light here and there, and his face is just being lit up. And this, again, you get some really great action from the Coens. There's the great scene where Chigurh is chasing Moss throughout the hotel, into the streets, and there's a big shootout. And as I said, with going back to Raising Arizona, they were doing action comedies. Here they're just doing a straight up action thriller, and they can still pull it off. They're really capable of doing a lot of different things. And even though they never did a straight up action movie, I think they could have done it. And it's a little weird story wise, that you have that big shootout that happens in the hotel where Chigurh actually murders the concierge and gets shot through a door. And then apparently the next day, Woody Harrelson's character is just able to check into that hotel. Like, you would think they would have evacuated it, you think it would have been a crime scene, but apparently you can just, dead bodies, no big deal, we're still open for business. So that's a little weird there, storytelling wise, but I'm willing to excuse it. You do get a lot of good special features on this. There's a documentary that was made during the onset. I'm not a big fan of seeing, especially Javier Bardem with the haircut, just speaking as himself and talking about the movie. I don't like seeing people, in character makeup or in character hairstyle or dress, discussing the movie out of character. I'd rather they just do it, afterwards. But the Coens and everyone, they do talk about how they were very impressed by the book. They thought it'd make a great adaptation, and they talk about the casting process. Bardem, I guess he mentioned to his agents that he just wanted to work with the Coens, and so they liked him, they liked his work, and they brought this role to him, even though they thought he'd be an odd fit for it. But it did just kind of work out that this weird role, and he seemed to fit in it quite great. They talk about how they had to do a lot of things, that even though the movie came out 2007, the book is set in the 1980s, where the movie is set, and even not going back that far, they still had to do a lot with cars and set dress and make sure there was no more recent stuff. So again, the Coens were still living in the past. They've yet to really, since Raising Arizona, they've yet to really make a present day movie. Which is interesting. Obviously, financially wise, it's very costly. They have to get the right clothing, right cars, right settings, right, kind of set decoration. But, it's how they want to tell stories. So, I guess they're willing to, incur the cost deficits. In this case it was worth it. I think No Country did do very well financially, so it did work out in the long run. Also, you have some behind-the-scenes stuff that I guess Josh Brolin himself shot it, and you do see interviews with the cast members later on. Bardem, he's now got a new haircut, he's lost a little weight, and Jeff Bridges is interviewing him about that. When he interviews Woody Harrelson, a lot of it's about the lavalier mic, and and they're just trying to get the position. It's just Woody and Brolin going back and forth, and that's the whole interview there. And they do have, actually, there is the special disc DVD that I thought was great when it first came out. This was before, social media and stuff really had taken off, and you could just watch a lot of this stuff easily. But it does have a lot of the promotional footage that everyone did with the Coens, especially Brolin, Bardem, and Kelly MacDonald. They did a lot of the promotion. Tommy Lee Jones really isn't in this that much. But it was all the interviews they did on different talk shows and interview shows, just promoting the movie, which when it came out, because you couldn't just watch the stuff. Or maybe you could watch some of it, but it was much harder to watch on YouTube or wherever. So that was a great get when I first got this. One of the best stories is Bardem and Josh Brolin are talking or doing an interview, and Brolin tells a story that when they're doing the phone call scene where they talk on the phone, which is the only well, it's the only time they talk to each other. They're both in the shootout, but it's the only time they talk to each other. And I guess the Coens kept telling Josh Brolin, no, just use an earpiece. Javier recorded the whole thing for you, and he says, no, I don't need that. I can just act it out. I can do it fine. And I guess he finally listened to it, and Bardem was like playing some jokes on him and was kind of bringing character. And the Coens just wanted to see Josh Brolin's face when he heard it. There is also Spike Jonze, the filmmaker. He interviews the Coens and some of their technical departments, and when he's interviewing them with Roger Deakins, that's where Deakins tells a story about Barton Fink, where he was setting up the shot, and Joel would say, no, you should use like a 35mm lens, and Ethan was saying, no, use a 27mm lens and put the camera here, and they were going back and forth, and eventually they all three of them worked together, and they actually got on the same page. Because I remember that interview, and I didn't know where Deakins told it, but it's on this. So if you just check online to see Spike Jonze interviewing the Coens and Deakins and the rest of the crew, that's where that is, in case you're interested. And I had been mentioning one of the themes that I was also knowing in the Coens was men who had kind of married into the business. Jerry Lundegaard from Fargo, both the Big Lebowski himself from the Big Lebowski. It's he kind of married into the wealth, and then the man who wasn't there, both Billy Bob Thornton's character and James Gandolfini's character, they had kind of done it, and now the gas station attendant who is threatened by Javier Bardem. Again, Bardem himself is constantly saying, like, you married into it. So it's an odd theme from the Coens. I don't know if they're doing it consciously or subconsciously, but that's, it's a recurring theme in their work, whether for good or bad. They're not really. None of the characters come out. I guess this is the most kind of respectable character. We don't really learn that much about him. But, he's certainly not like the Big Lebowski and is pretending that he got all this wealth on his own, or he's not, constantly scheming like the characters in Man Who Wasn't There, or especially Jerry from Fargo. He's really a sleazy guy. So I guess this is the first time of a character who married into the business that is actually seen as being kind of a respectable member of society, which is good. And yeah, that'll wrap us up for this episode. Let me know what you thought about No Country for Old Men. How does it compare? One of the things that before I wrap it up, that I didn't mention earlier was in the book with Woody Harrelson's character. There was a scene where he's investigating the shootout between Chigurh and Moss, and I think this is how it plays out. I can't really remember, but there was a stray bullet that fires into a house. It shoots a woman in the back of the head, and it goes into a calendar, and it leaves this big blood splatter along the calendar. And Moss sees that, and he thinks that this is like the day of his death. It's like a premonition of his own demise. And when he's with Anton Chigurh in the hotel room later, and he knows that it's only like it's 11:15, so he knows he still has 45 minutes left, and so he can kind of weasel his way out of this and can kind of figure a way out of the situation. He knows he has the time, and then he just gets shot. And it's another way about how there's these characters that make their own rules about their own fate, and at the end they're not in charge of their own destiny. And, you know, Shiger thinks the same way, and then he's in the car accident at the end. And, you know, Moss kind of thinks that, oh, this is just like an easy trick for money. You know, I'm smart, I'm cagey, I'll be able to get out of this. And he's constantly at a struggle for this. As a lot of Coen, you know, a lot of the characters in the Coens, they always think that they're smarter than everyone else. They always think they're in charge. They never think they're going to get caught. And they always do. You know, they never really get away scot-free. And, yeah, you know, it's the way they go sometimes. So let me know, what did you think about No Country for Old Men? Have you read the book? How does it compare? Do you think the book is better? Movie is better? I think they're both pretty equal. I might actually like the movie a little bit better just because, you know, I think the thrills are a little bit more exciting. The cinematography adds a lot to it. And, yeah. But I haven't read the book in a while. Maybe I should go back and read it, see if it... I'm sure it does. I really liked it the first time. So, let me know. You know, we've got one more Coen Brothers movies to go. And then we're going to wrap it up for Joel and Ethan. That'll be number 9. And I'll try to do some rankings at the end of the series. So, until next time, be kind and rewind to each other. And remember, it's not a true home without home video. Thank you. Goodbye.